You're listening to Moody Radio Cleveland.
Now we're pleased to bring back Pastor Tim Armstrong. Again, his program, The Worthy Walk, is heard Sundays at noon right here on this radio station. And also he is pastor of the chapel in Akron. And I learned today he also is sort of a carpenter. Thanks for joining us again, bro.
Good morning, Brian. Good morning, Kathleen.
Good morning.
And I was telling him how perfect it is that he's a pastor because now he can tell people what it was like to be a carpenter. Look at him.
There you go.
Carpenter. I mean, it's just the perfect combination here. So, Pastor, I think a lot of people in times of trouble, I've even seen studies about people who don't even believe in Jesus will pray to him when they're in trouble. But we all kind of sometimes wonder, where is God? Right? I mean, that's a pretty normal thing to feel.
Oh, that's totally the thing that we all feel. In fact, that's probably what connects us when we're experiencing some kind of heartache or some kind of trouble. We're saying, what's going on here? Why is this happening? Where is God in all of the situations?
Is it wrong for us to even ask God things like that? I mean, is it sinful for us to just pray things like, God, where are you? I need you. I don't see you here.
Absolutely not. We see this over and over in the scriptures. I mean, if you think about it, every character in the Bible goes through times of troubles. None of them are perfect. Some of them, they make their own trouble. Other things happen to them. And we see this often. They're wondering. And when you read the Psalms, the psalmist is crying out often, God, where are you in the midst of this? And then it's through those questions God responds and demonstrates actually he is right in the midst even of our own troubles.
And yet in Christian culture, I think there's this pressure sometimes to be a perpetual optimist, and we're supposed to pretend like everything's great and we're happy all the time. Where do you think that comes from? Because Scripture tells us it's okay to be uncertain sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there is an aspect where we're called to be people of joy. And there's, I think, a sense where people will say, well, if I'm supposed to be a person of joy, then I have to exude joy outwardly. And that's not the true sense of joy. Joy is an inner understanding of a hope that you have. You may still feel a sense of forlorn, heaviness, depression. We see the prophet Elijah through a period of depression. But joy is that inner contentment that we have, even in the midst of trouble. And so I think there's a misunderstanding. We have to always put on a good face. And I think the best thing to do is just be truthful. No, I'm not doing well. And share that with one another.
Yeah, there is that distinct difference between joy and happiness. We're not supposed to be happy all the time, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And so
dead on.
Where is God when we kind of feel like he's not there? You know what I'm saying? Where we're like, oh, God, help me. What in the world is happening here? Where are you? So where is he?
Yeah, I think one of the best stories in the Old Testament answers that question clearly. And this is, by the way, Brian and Kathleen, this is grassroots Christianity. I think every week of my ministry, I'm encountering someone who has a heavy heart, who's troubled, who's going through some wilderness experience. I love the story of Hagar in Genesis chapter 16. It's a story we often read by because we're interested in the story of Abraham and Sarah. Yeah. But I'll recap the story very quickly. So the Lord has given Abraham and Sarah a promise of children. You know, they're going to be more multiple than the stars. Now they're very old. Abraham, he's 85, Sarah's 76, no children. And so Sarah takes it on herself. She gives her slave girl, an Egyptian slave girl, Hagar, to Abraham. Now, in our culture, that just seems weird. We don't quite understand this. We have to realize this is a different culture. She gives this, she's probably 16 to 20, this slave girl to this 85-year-old man to sleep with her. I will take her children, her child, and her child will become mine. Now, this is not something, I mean, imagine this. This is not something Hagar would have wanted to do, right? She would have wanted her own children, her own family. Now she has to sleep with this 85-year-old man. She does. She becomes pregnant, And now Sarah is feeling extremely insecure, and her slave girl's pregnant. She's not. She kicks Hagar out into the wilderness. Now, when you hear the word wilderness, you have to think desert.
Yeah.
So she's kicked her into the desert. Where's she going to go? No other place but back to Egypt, 200 miles away.
Oh.
It's a death sentence. I mean, now this poor girl, she's hit rock bottom. And you know what? She asks, where are you, God?
Mm-hmm.
I'm wandering in the desert. Where are you? Beautiful story. God shows up beside a well, and he does three things. First, he makes her a promise. And here's the thing many of us forget. God is a promise-making and promise-keeping God. We see promises to us in the Scriptures all the time. 365-plus promises. Promise for every day of the year. He makes her a promise, and the promise is you're going to survive. You're going to have a future. Doesn't that sound familiar?
Yeah.
It's exactly what God says to us. Jeremiah 29:11. I have a future for you, and he says that this is what I want you to do. He says something to her that she probably doesn't want to hear. Go back and submit to your mistress. In other words, be obedient to me. The path out of troubles, out of heartache, out of sorrows, it's always obedience. You don't take matters into your own hands. You don't fix it yourself. You wait on God. And then here's the two things I really want to focus in on. He comes to her and he says, I hear you. He says, you're going to have a child. You're going to name him Ishmael because the Lord has listened to your affliction. Isn't that exactly what we want to know about our God in the midst of trouble?
Just that he hears us, yeah.
Exactly. Have you guys ever felt like your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling?
Yeah.
And you want to, we're in the, yeah. I hear that a lot.
All the time.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the truth. They're not bouncing off the ceiling. God is listening. And he hears you in the midst of your affliction. I love the fact that he tells her to name the child Ishmael. Most names in the Scriptures have a meaning. Ishmael, last two letters, El, from Elohim, God. Ishmael means to hear. He says, I want you to name this child God Hears, so that every time you see the child, you'll remember in your wilderness experiences, in your times of trouble, I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that we need to know about our God when we're in the midst of trouble.
But so many people might go, yeah, Pastor, it's nice for her, but I don't remember the last time God came down and told me to name somebody something. Like she got this direct intervention, and I want that.
That's right. Yeah. One of the things that we have to realize is that the stories in the Scriptures are here for a purpose. They're here for us. You ever think about this? Why has God allowed this to be in the Scriptures? Why is this psalm here? The psalm is there. The story is there for us so that we might learn through the examples of these people and their experiences that this is exactly how our God treats us today. He has not changed. So the God of the Old Testament is the God of the New Testament. It's the God of today. And as we see God hears Hagar, God hears us. We can know in our times of trouble, God hears us as well. The best part of the story is yet to come. Towards the end, she actually names God. Now we don't normally do that. We think, well, God has a name, but she's sitting in the desert. She's actually now by a well. God has told her, you have a future, and I'm listening to you. I understand your affliction. And with a sense of joy in her heart, her problems aren't over, she turns to God and she says, you are the God of seeing. So what's that say? We have a God who hears. Now she's saying, you see me. And she names the well. The Scriptures actually use the Hebrew. She names the well Ba'er Lahai Roi. And when you break that word down, Ba'er means well, Lahai means the living one, Roi means to see, Ba'er Lahai Roi. This is the well of the living one who sees me. Now, here's a guarantee about life. You're not going to just have one trouble. You're not going to just have one time of a heavy heart or heartache or a struggle. Job said, man is born onto trouble like the sparks from a fire fly upward. We're going to have multiple times of trouble. She names a well so that every time she would go by that well, she would remember, this is the spot that the living one, he saw me in my troubles and he heard me. It's a wonderful practice for us as believers to have a place where we say, this is where God meets me. This is where God responds to my prayers. I come back here because I know he's faithful to me.
Yeah.
This is the story of the Scripture. It's the story for us in our life, even today, as we're moving through the troubles of life.
And that's so encouraging because we all know that's what our souls really need in times of trouble, is to be seen and heard. So this is a super big encouragement. It's 7:00, unfortunately. Time to run. Man, time flies with Pastor Armstrong here. And if folks want to catch your preaching, they can either visit the chapel in Akron on Sundays or listen into the Worthy Walk, right?
That's right, theworthywalk.com. You can find out all the information about our program. Of course, we're on Sundays at noon on Moody Cleveland, and you can follow us on our Twitter at the Worthy Walk.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time, Pastor. I know we'll have you back again real soon, okay?
Good to be with you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. For more on this topic or other featured content, visit brianandkathleen.org.